I wasn't grateful for what I achieved. I just wasn't happy. And I'm like, either entrepreneurship is a farce or I didn't do it right.
All right. Welcome to the real estate investing movement. We have the Trevor Mauch, founder of Investor Carrot. Got to be the largest real estate investor, website provider / SEO strategy company, a lot of education. Now, I've always looked up to Trevor since very early stages of stepping into the industry without a whole lot of knowledge. And if there was 2 words that I could describe him today, I would say visionary leader. Trevor is a man that leads with his heart. And I believe that he calls other people to step into their life of purpose, to lead with passion, and really to carve out a better journey into tomorrow. So, Trevor, it's an honor to have you on board with us today, man.
Ben, dude, I mean, even just like the way you introduced that, man, it kind of gives me chills, because I know and we'll get into this stuff, right? But I know when we start business, we usually don't have that kind of mission and purpose in there. It's usually we got to make some money,
Yeah.
So we got to make some money. We don't like the job we're in, or we don't want to go to plan B or whatever it is, and then shortly after that, you get to a spot where you're making some money and you have a choice, because your motivation goes away, because you got your back is not against the wall anymore, right? And you go, shoot, I have to now enjoy my business because it's for a reason, because it has purpose, and that's why I do what I do, man. Help businesses, entrepreneurs like you get more freedom so you can make a greater impact, and that's why
incredible.
I'm here, man.
That's incredible.
Yep.
So I love really diving in with people's backstory. And we talked briefly before the show. The goal with this was not to position it as a normal podcast, because I believe that the value that can be added through this conversation can go far deeper than that. Trevor is one of the pioneers in this industry, not only providing tools for real estate investors and giving them the roadmap, right, to help place them in a position for success in the future. But, he's also really empowering the organization, the team from within. And that evolution had to start somewhere, right? Every one of us has an origin story. So I wanted to really dive in deep and talk about your journey into entrepreneurship and how you stumbled into where you are today.
Dude, so I'm not the guy who is going to say, man, I had the lemonade stands and sold candy at school. I wasn't that guy. I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. The first time that I even thought about being an entrepreneur, Ben, was in college. So I played baseball in college, and I went to college to play baseball. I didn't know what else I wanted to do, and I wasn't that good of a baseball player. So it's not like I got a full ride scholarship there. I just wanted to go play baseball. Then I'll figure it out here. And it kind of goes back to, seeing the people around you, and you kind of take cues and say, what do I like about those people around me and where they are in their life, and what do I don't, and how do I want to adjust my life as I go forward? And my parents, I love them to death. They're like the most, I hit the parent lottery, just so fortunate, so lucky. But my dad and mom worked their butts off. They started small businesses out of necessity. Not because they were entrepreneurs and they had this vision. It was like my dad lost his job, and his last 2 jobs were in this one type of industry. And he said, well, that's kind of what I know. Maybe I just could start a business in this industry and see how it goes, because he lost his previous job. And he did. And he still has that business today, 30 something plus years ago. And so wow. I grew up in that industry. I grew up on weekends packing tables and chairs, to help set up the weddings that my mom and my dad would be helping people set up with their party store. I'd be, on summer days, I'm 12, 13, 14 years old. I'm out there with the pressure washer, steam cleaning off the backhoes, the excavators, all that kind of stuff with my dad's equipment rental business that he had started when we were young. And so I didn't want anything to do with business, dude. I thought business was you work 6.5 days a week. The phone's ringing every day because we literally lived above the business. And outside of the building, they had this big old speaker that every time the phone would ring. So during the work hours, all the workers could hear the phone ringing because they need to run in and grab it. It'd be 10 o'clock at night. This big speaker outside of our window is like blaring the phone ringing, and my dad's answering it on 7 o'clock on Saturday. And so I got a lot of work ethic from him for sure. But the last thing in the world I wanted to do was go into business. Was on my list. And so kind of where that started to change is one thing I encourage all entrepreneurs to do is dabble. Where we all focus is extremely important. Focus is crazy important. But what I suggest people do is at the start, it's kind of like a funnel. At the start, go really wide, like try a bunch of things. Okay. But do it quick. Like try things quickly and discard the stuff you don't like and go deeper on the things you do. Then eventually, once you find what you do like, focus in on the one thing and just go crazy deep on that thing. And I'll kind of talk about some mistakes I made even in the past 10 years where I thought because I'm winning here, I'm not now going to go start this other business. And then they both end up failing. And I see a lot of investors doing that where they get some good wins in the real estate side. Then they go start this other business, because
shiny
now
objects.
Everything they touch turns to gold, right? Yeah. But then they don't figure out how to set up those businesses so they run without them. And nor did I earlier. And I can show you guys how I changed that now. But yeah, dude, it started in college. I thought I wanted to be an attorney because I had a professor and I went there just for business degree. And this professor's name is Ari DeGroot. And Ari, he's just this charismatic guy. He's a local attorney. He's teaching business law. And he's teaching us how to do business law through his real estate deals. So he's doing deals and he was flipped some houses and he bought and held a lot of houses. And so he would kind of teach the lessons throughout it. I'm going, man, this guy, like he's got energy and I don't care what he's doing, but whatever he's doing, he must be happy because he's got this energy just coming out of him. And so I started to look, research and saw the Carlton Sheets infomercials and I didn't have the $500 to pay for the course. And so one day my dad told me, he said, Trev, I know you're wanting to kind of start this real estate thing. He goes, I'll buy the course for you and you don't have to pay me back for it if you buy a property from it using the course within the next year. If you don't buy a property from it, you got to pay me the $500. I'm like, okay.
Boom.
Yep. So opened up the Carlton Sheets course and it's basic, it wasn't anything crazy, but I didn't let that get in my mind. A lot of people who are starting out in entrepreneurship, they're looking for the perfect thing. They're looking for the thing that answers all their questions in that course or in that training or that coaching program. And oftentimes what you need is you just need the next step. It's like,
yes,
just get the next step down and take that next step and don't complain about not knowing step 4 because you're not there yet. Just got to know step 1 and nail step 1. And so within that year, I bought my first property right there by the college. I hand wrote a bunch of letters to people that I got from a list at the courthouse that were multi-unit buildings, under 10 units, but over 2 that had owned the property over X amount of years. And I was looking for someone who was likely retiring and wanted to get out of it, and talked to a bunch of sellers, got really nervous, didn't know what I was doing, had no money, no credit, nothing. And I ended up buying a 4-unit building with $600 of my own money, owner carry, and I still own that property today. So that's kind of what got it going. And then we can kind of dig in further how it eventually turned into full-fledged entrepreneurship after college.
Yeah, that's incredible. When I look at entrepreneurship, right, and I think it's common struggles and pitfalls that many of us go through, right? But I view it as the entrepreneurial roller coaster, right? Because you got these extreme highs, but these deep valleys and these lows, right? And it really, it's a spiritual journey, man. I tell a lot of people that, like, if your spirit is not ready for the challenges and the struggles, and you don't have a deep-rooted why and a reason that you truly want to be in this business and that you want to create something, then you're probably going to fizzle out, right?
Yep.
Because that why is your fuel, right? That's what keeps you going through the lows and is able to help you trek up that mountain to get to those high points. And so I really want to lean into that, Trevor. I want to lean into that journey, right? You took the course, got the first deal, you became a believer, right?
Mm.
It showed that the principles you were learning through that education, through that season were possible, right?
Mm.
Possible for you to do. And if you could replicate that many times, ultimately you could become successful.
Yeah.
So after these first deals, right? I'm assuming you did many more. What got you into the content side of things?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, dude. So for me, what happened was this: is I wasn't really making money from the real estate because it was all buy and hold. I graduated from college. We moved up to Portland that year. I live here in Oregon, and I thought I wanted to be a house flipper and wholesaler. So giving you the context of the timing, I graduated college in 2005, and then we moved up to Portland in 2006. And so that's right around the time when things were crazy, kind of like they are now, except it's crazy because it was this bubble from the finance and stuff. And so I had an uncle, I still have an uncle who lives up there, and he was he was a mortgage broker, just one of the 10 loan officers in this place. And I said, Uncle Larry, I don't really know anything about anything. I've got this marketing degree, and I thought I knew marketing. I clearly didn't. You have the degree, but you don't know anything about marketing until you get out in the real world to try to sell something. You know nothing about marketing. It's usually like branding. And so I said, I'm trying to start this business over here, but I could use some money during the month. And where can I dive in and work with you? And so that was lesson number one was I gave myself permission, Ben, in those early days to say, number one, what do I want to do? And how do I give myself a time period to do that thing, to take a chance? Where a lot of people fall prey, Ben, is they say, I think I want to do this thing. I think I want to be an investor. I think I want to start this business. I think I want to do whatever it is. They'll go out and dabble in some of the information. They'll try some of the actions, but then the second it gets hard, they quit and go back and say it doesn't work. And I think what we have to do is we have to set a time period. We have to say, I'm giving myself this amount of time, and I'm not going to even think about quitting during that time. And you have to give yourself enough time to make it work. And I think about a year is a good time period. Like, don't give yourself a month or 3 months, or I'm going to try calling 10 people or whatever it is. Give yourself a darn year and say, I'm not even going to think about stopping or quitting this thing. I'm just going to pivot. If route one doesn't work, I'm going to pivot to option B, then option C, and option D, all the way until I figured this darn thing out. Yeah. And the thing that popped up for me that year, Ben, was this. I said, once again, I'm not going to get a job for a year. Worst case scenario, I get evicted out of my apartment. They can't boot me out of there in Oregon for probably 2 to 3 months anyway. And so I got like 2 to 3 months of potential free rent there. And then I would just move back in with my parents, which would kind of suck, but it's not the end of the world. So that's worst case scenario, And that's where I think a lot of people, we get nervous about thinking the worst case scenario is the likely scenario. And the worst case scenario is likely the most unlikely scenario, but we think it's the likely. And so I looked at it and said, okay, what's the worst case scenario here that can happen? And then I flipped it around, and I learned how to kind of flip my risk profile early. And this is what I want people to do is I looked at it and said, okay, looking at these people that I know, and they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever it was. If I don't make this decision to figure this out this year, what's the likelihood that I'm going to be in the same position that they're in, that they're complaining about in their 40s, 50s, or 60s? I'm like, well, the likelihood's probably near 100%. If I don't take this chance, and if I don't try to figure it out this year, near 100% certainty, I'm going to be in a situation like they are, looking back on, I wish I would have done that thing. I wish I would have stuck it out. I wish I would have tried that. And so I learned to flip that risk profile. You figure out what is the worst case scenario, and then you say, what's the most likely scenario? And then you say, essentially, what's 100% guaranteed going to happen if I don't take this chance? And so that year, man, I was just trying to figure things out and was working with my Uncle Larry. I was literally cold calling from Craigslist ads to try to help get loans. And at night on the sides, I had built this blog it's still up online. It's kind of funny. I built this blog where I was documenting what I was doing in rental properties. And so I would kind of write an article on how to do a move in, move out kind of a checklist. And I would take my checklist and put it online. And I would document this other thing over here. And then I brought on some guests to do content with. And during those years, that was 2006, 7, Ben, I really started to learn, man, I can hack together a site. I can put content online. I started to learn how to do conversion rate optimization. During those years is when I kind of found the internet as a business tool.
That's strong. That's really strong. So we're going to go back a tiny bit.
Yep.
when you talk about operating, like in fear and analyzing your risk profile, the way I see it, there's two planes that you can operate, right? You can operate in fear or you can operate in faith, right? And fear is really based on, it goes deep into our nature, right? The limbic brain, the lizard brain, where, you're basically trained to run away from danger, right? And what you talked about, as human beings, we usually picture the worst case scenario things to happen, which is the reason that we intimidate ourselves and hold ourselves back from actually taking action, because we're afraid of what could happen.
Yep.
Right. Which holds 90% of the population back, because we're living in that state of fear. Right.
Yep.
But if you flip that, right, not only assessing your risk profile, which is super important to understand, that's almost like a hybrid Tim Ferriss teaching, right? Like, what's the worst that could happen?
Yep.
But you flip that profile and ask yourself, how can I operate in a place of faith, right? Or abundance?
Yep.
How can I add value, right? Just step out in faith. On the other side of your fear lies a promise.
Dude, and 100%. One of the things that helps me there even today, and I learned this I don't remember where I learned it, but I learned it in that period of time, is you start to look at it and go, well, shoot, how do I have faith? Like, how do I have faith in that thing? And it doesn't matter what it is. And I heard from this guy, he said, well, first of all, you have to see, number one, is it possible? So that's the first thing, is you look at what's worst case scenario and you go, okay, let me acknowledge it and let me ask what's the likelihood that would happen. But then you look at where you're wanting to go and you say, okay, number one, is this thing even possible? Like, has anyone ever in the world like me in a similar situation to me ever been able to do what I'm wanting to do? And the answer for most of us is 100% yes. Like, unless you're saying, hey, I want to fly with it's probably not possible that you're going to sit here and flap with your arms and fly. No one's ever done it before, without like some sort of apparatus. But if it's a business, if it's flipping houses, wholesaling, if it's starting an online company, if it's whatever it is, the answer to all of those is yes. Number two, once we say, okay, yeah. So not only is it possible, number two, we say, well, cool. Well, what are the beliefs that I have that are limiting beliefs that are making me think I can't do that? Well, and that's now where it's your own stuff. That's where it's the own brain clutter. We got to get out of there. It's, well, I come from a family that doesn't have money. It's, well, I'm not college educated. I'm too young. I'm too old. Whatever it is. I don't have money in the bank. You have to have money. Guys, those are all limiting beliefs. And so go write those limiting beliefs down, the things that you're scared of, the things that you think are holding you back from it. And now on the other side of that piece of paper, write down how you would overcome that. And so if it's like, well, I don't have enough money to make this work. Okay, well, how would you overcome that limiting belief? Well, go find out from someone how they bought a property, how they did what you're set out to do with no money. Cool, check that one off. Awesome. Well, now go down the list, all those limiting beliefs, draw a line over to the side. Right? How do I get over this one? And so you can work through that and get rid of those limiting beliefs. And now you just need to have that time period. As long as you got a long enough runway to make this thing happen, you can go through all the different things, and you do have the right amount of failures, and you're going to finally find something probably that clicks.
Yeah, that's really strong. Now, we talk about, this TV microwave generation. People step into this industry, I think in many cases, with a misconception that you can get into it and it's a get rich quick type of deal, which could not be further from the case.
Yeah.
And then when you talk about, the coaching education side of things, I think a lot of people want a lifeline, right? So you buy this course and they're like, well, if this doesn't make me rich, it doesn't work, right? But that course is not there to throw you a lifeline. It's there to give you the tools and the specialized knowledge that you need in order to develop the skill set to become successful.
Yep.
Right. So instead of leaning on other people and grasping and pulling onto their successes, thinking that they can pull us up and make it our own, we need to take those skills and the knowledge. Like Trevor was just giving you guys some physical activities, right? That I guarantee 99% of people wouldn't do, right? But write it down, right?
Yep.
Take those strategies and put it to paper, right? Actually apply it to your life so that you can take it below surface value, right? Dive deep and actually analyze the information you're given, because that's the only way you're truly going to transform. And if you want to make it in this journey, I think that the only mission is to transform the way that you think, because
Yep.
when you change the way that you think, you can change the way that you act. And those actions lead to habits. Habits lead to success.
Big time.
Right?
Big time.
Powerful stuff.
Dude, here's one thing on that. And this is something I just learned the past 3 years, but looking back and kind of connecting the dots, there's probably 7 or 8 disciplines I had to adopt over the years that would kind of get me through what I call discipline ceilings that would unlock that next part of the career, next part of the life. And that's the way I think about my growth. And if I were to kind of, picture like what you talked about earlier, the entrepreneurship roller coaster, it's a roller coaster. And I think in our minds, we hope it's always going to be this smooth ride, like up and to the right. Right. But it's more like a stock ticker. It's more like you hope that it's going like this, but you hope it continues to go up and to the right. And so as I went through life and I started to realize, oh shoot, the second you think you've got it figured out, just recognize and realize, oh dude, exactly. It's like, as soon as things are good, just recognize they're going to be bad eventually. And when things are bad, recognize they're going to be good eventually. So you can't like get too down when you're down. Just recognize it sucks right now, but it's going to get good. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's going to get good. And then when things are amazing, don't have too much hubris to think I got this figured out forever. Finally, I could bottle this up and keep it there. And so the things that help me there is, number one, recognizing it's going to be like this. You're going to have the ups and downs. It's not a matter of if you're going to have a down, it's when. But then the next thing is, how do you then compress those downs so you have a down that doesn't go as far and it doesn't go for as long? And that down could be that you get kind of down mentally. Some people, it could be depression. It could be where you're just in a rut, right? You're just in a rut and you just can't figure out why you don't have energy and you don't feel like momentum's happening and whatever it is. And we can go over a few of those if you thought it was valuable, where some of those disciplines that I had to adopt and some of those processes that I do to compress my downs and to keep my momentum going up longer over a sustained amount of time. That's really good.
I'd like to use this as a bridge to talk about the origin of carrot, right? I'm
Cool.
assuming that just like, anything else, we, in many cases, experience these struggles and setbacks, right? Which in many cases can be the launching pad for our future successes, right?
Yep.
I think the best thing you can do is to learn from your mistakes, formulate the lessons, extract them, which can make you better, right? And then you, like you said, analyze, is what I'm currently doing working? Is this industry still relevant, right? What's the model look like? But let's talk about the origin of carrot. What led you into that season, and we'll start there, because I'm sure we're going to go pretty deep into it.
Yeah, dude. So after I was doing the work with my uncle and kind of learned what the internet could do, I started to learn how to get traffic through putting content online. I learned how to optimize pages and learn how to get people to opt in and give me their email and their information. Then I'm like, cool, I'm getting this. Now, how do I build more value for them and learn how to market in a way that adds value and doesn't just market to take, but market to give. And then hopefully in return, they'll come and say, hey, I could really get a lot of value from your thing. I started a publishing company in the real estate space. And so I was doing my rental property stuff over here, learning how to market. I was doing some consulting in the early days, like unsuccessful consulting, SEO and things like that, just basic stuff in the early days. This has been in 2007, 2008. And then I had a guy, so Patrick Riddle, who you'd mentioned, he was making comments on that blog that I had. And that blog, it's still up online. You guys can find it. It's thereibrain.com, like real estate investor, thereibrain.com. It crashes probably 3 times a month. We don't monitor it anymore. I haven't put content on it in probably 8 years. It's there though. And it still makes me money today, which is interesting. But so I was blogging on it, and then this guy kept on commenting on there, and he clearly knew what he was doing. And I said, well, shoot, it might be time to kind of take to the next level now. How do I step into an uncomfortable situation and do a webinar? Like, I'd never done any webinar, any video type of work like that. And so I signed up for GoToWebinar, invited Patrick, this guy who clearly knew what he was doing. I vetted him out, talked to some people who knew him. He'd raised a good hunk of money and done 50 or 60 flips by that time. And we did a webinar. So we taught how to raise private money. And we ended up having so much success from that webinar where we weren't selling anything. People kept on saying like, cool, where can I buy something? And guys, we're just giving it away for free. Like there's nothing to buy. It was a 2-hour webinar. We answered everything. So Patrick and I scheduled another webinar. And we cool. A lot of people want to know how to raise funds right now. Cause at that time, 2008, you really couldn't get a lot of bank financing anymore. Things were getting compressed. And so private money was critical. And so we did another free webinar, 3-hour webinar this time, answered all the questions. And people were like, awesome, this is amazing. Where can I get your scripts, Patrick? How can I get this? Can I buy coaching from you? We're like, no, we're not selling anything, guys. And so at that time, we got so many emails. We said, well, what if we just try to make a business out of this and add as much value as we can? So that's how him and I became business partners. And that run lasted for about 4 years, where that was probably my real learning period on how to be an amazing marketer, was during that 4 years. How do you learn direct response marketing? How do we take that marketing and actually turn it into business? And the business never got huge. We would do multiple hundreds of thousands a year, had great products to help people. But during that time, Ben, I remember this is around 2011, 2012. This is kind of what preceded Carrot. I remember waking up one day and I'm like, man, from the outside in, people were seeing this life that they probably were like, I want to emulate that. I was working from wherever I wanted to work. I would go on trips with my wife and my friends. I didn't have a job per se. Like we didn't work for the man. I did make 6 figures a year as a 20-something-year-old guy. But dude, I was miserable. I was flat out miserable. I was listening to everything that all the gurus online would say, about how to build a business that is a business of your dreams. I was delegating things. They were like, don't hire employees, dude, just get a bunch of VAs, everything, just delegate everything VAs, no employees. I'm like, cool, I'm doing that. And then they were saying all these other things about just use paid traffic and just do this and just do this. And I was doing all that stuff. And what I came to realize, Ben, was some of that advice that I took was good advice if you're looking to get a short-term result, but it wasn't great advice if you're looking to build a real business that has real impact, that gives you real freedom. Those are great ways to make money now, but not a great way to get freedom. And so I pulled back one time in 2012 and I'm just like, man, there's got to be a better way, because I'm making money and I'm miserable. And I thought that once I got to this spot, the clouds would part, the angels would sing, and life would just be different. Right? Life would just
wasn't like you pictured.
Oh, it wasn't at all. I had some money in the bank, but I was miserable. I'm like, I would much rather just not be making that money and go do whatever the heck I wanted to do.
Would you say that you became burnt out because your focus was expanded in all these different areas, focusing on paid traffic and SEO and building content? Do you think you were being pulled in too many different directions? Like, what do you see as the cause of that?
Yeah, there were a couple of things. So going back to purpose and why, that business didn't have a purpose and why that was real. Like it was something where we had one on the wall, but I didn't believe in it. Like in my core, in my gut, I didn't feel it. And like it wasn't baked into everything I was doing automatically. Like my written mission with Carrot and my current purpose in life, outside of following God and helping my family be an amazing, loving family, is to help entrepreneurs build businesses of freedom and impact. Like that's my purpose. And so when I'm on a podcast like this, I'm not selling Carrot because I want to sell this. I want to sell freedom and impact. I want to help you guys do that because that's what I'm passionate about. Right.
Yes.
And so when we build our product at Carrot, that's what we're thinking about. How does this help people save more time to give them more freedom? How does this help people do this? And so at that time, we were doing tactics, but it didn't have a real purpose that got me up in the morning to say, man, when things get hard, that's okay because it's for a greater purpose. When things got hard, I'm like, that sucks. I just don't want to do the work now because there wasn't a purpose behind it. So number two is I was doing work that dragged my energy down. People were telling me I was really good at these things. I was really good at doing marketing, putting marketing funnels together and doing all those things. And I would spend 80% of my time doing them. That's what made us money. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't like it. Why am I over and over again procrastinating to do this thing that makes us a lot of money and people say I'm good at? And I joined my first mastermind ever in 2012. And Greg Clement, a good friend of mine now, but I started to look at other people and I said, well, I essentially achieved what I was trying to achieve when I was going through all the gurus courses, 4 years ago. Why isn't it that I'm happy like I should be? Yeah, I wasn't grateful for what I achieved. I just wasn't happy. And I'm like, either entrepreneurship is a farce or I didn't do it right. And I opted for the second. I'm like, I think I just didn't do it right. And so I looked out there for other people that seemed like they were doing it right. And Greg Clement seemed like he was doing it right. He's several years older than me. He had a team of people that were employees. He showed up to the office 2 or 3 times a week, mainly did the things he was energized about. He was the idea guy, the strategy guy. He was just doing interesting things. He spent a lot of time with his family, coaches his son's football teams, a man of faith, like all these things. I'm going from the outside in anyway. That's kind of what I want. And so I started to create this vision for the person I wanted to become, not just the business I wanted to create. And that's when things shifted, dude. Because I'm like, okay, when they teach you all the stuff, they tell you to write a business plan. They tell you to set business goals. They might even say to create a business vision. But no one at that time was telling me to create a personal vision for the person I want to become. What traits do I want to have? What habits do I want to have? How do I want to show up in life? How do I want to stop showing up in life? And so I started to write down this list, and I wrote my very first ever vision story. And this is when I still had that business with Patrick. And I wrote the vision story, and I start at the 20-year mark, and I say, 20 years from today, and today is the time we're recording. This is Thursday. And so I'm 38 years old right now. If I were to look at it or write my 20-year vision story at 58 years old on an average Thursday, what would my average day look like? And then I would literally start from the moment I woke up to the moment I go to bed. The whole thing. I wake up. What room do I wake up in? Who do I hear first? What do I hear? What is the first conversations I have? What do I see in my room? Is there a window? What's outside of that window? What do I do first? What do I eat for breakfast? Where are my kids at in 20 years? I go down the list. My daughter, she's 10. She'll be 30 years old. Where's she at that time? I go all the way throughout the whole day. When do I go to work? What type of work do I do? What am I doing at work? Who am I working with? The whole thing. When do I come home? When do I move? When do I work out? Like all that stuff, right? And so I got really clear on it. And I said, okay, let me write a 10-year vision of that. If in 10 years, where would my life have to be on an average Thursday when I'm 48 years old in order for me to live the 20-year vision? Write that down. And same thing 5 years out. When I'm 43, where would I have to be to live the 10-year vision? And now you can walk it back to a 1 year. And at that time, Ben, this is what happened. I wrote that out and I'm like, will this business that I have right now actually ever have a chance of getting me there? And I said, I don't think so, unless it so changes drastically and or my role changes in it. And I think it's better for me just to start fresh. And so Patrick and I talked, love him to death. I'm going to see him in a week and a half at the mastermind. We've ran every year since then. So we've ran a mastermind for 9 years now since we split as business partners. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to work on the stuff that is going to get me towards that vision, but also work on stuff that gives me energy. And so that's when the shift happened. And I created this process called the energy audit. And I looked at my business and I said, man, like what in my business did I like? And what in my business gave me energy? Dude, everything around strategy. Like I want to blow into the office, look at the whiteboard. We're going to strategize the crap out of stuff. Now I want to leave now, right? Like I don't want to execute any of it. I don't want to have to be a guy who has to wrangle all these VAs. Maybe if I build a team like Greg did, and I learned how to do that in his mastermind, maybe if I build a team of amazing people who have a vested interest in us growing, that'll actually gain me more freedom, not less, like the gurus were saying. They were all saying, don't hire employees. I have 45 employees right now, dude. It's like I have more freedom than ever. Incredible. I have more freedom.
I feel like every quarter, every 6 months, carrot hiring. Bringing on more teams.
Yeah, five open positions now, but it didn't start that way. And so I wrote those down and I wanted more freedom and flexibility. I wanted consistency in my business. I wanted to do things that were fun. I wanted to build a single asset that was valuable and not just churning a bunch of transactions. And I wanted to, in my gut, build a business that I could tell was for a purpose. And so that next year, man, I was searching for it. And the funny thing is, as soon as you stop searching for it, those things hit you. And the thing that hit me, and this is how Carrot started, and it's a long story that I made along, and I'm going to cut it right now, is in that previous business with Patrick, we worked with a lot of real estate investors, and I had a consulting business on the side that did this type of marketing for big businesses. We would help them fully change their content marketing strategy and then grow their business. I'm talking like $500 million a year business was the biggest company I consulted with. And I said, okay, I want to do more of that because it's evergreen. It's going to be adding consistency to the business. And we set up all these websites for our clients because they would hit us up and say, like, where should I go get a website? I'm like, man, they're all crappy. You know, they all focus on design, and you get to go choose and pick one of the 14 different designs. And I was just saying, well, how does the customer know what actually converts? They're just going to pick what looks pretty. And so I took that and I said, well, what if I just took that idea and those 100 people that I had websites up there and they were paying me $9 a month for hosting. I was getting ready to push the button to delete all of it, so I wouldn't have to deal with 100 people paying $9 a month for hosting, and say, here's all of your files. I love you guys, but I need you to move this to another server, and here's all of your files, right? When I looked at it, I'm like, this is an opportunity. What if I could just come up with a better solution that solved the problem investors were having with getting online, but something that actually performed well in Google and conversion. And we made it easy and simple for you. And we led the industry there. We led there while everyone else is offering 14 design options. At the start, we offered one, but it converted and performed amazingly. And so we put it out there. We pilot tested it. And today we're a multiple 8-figure a year business, and we're still growing, man. So that's how it started. It wasn't sexy. It wasn't like I planned it out. The first 18 months were hard. Didn't take a payroll for 18 months at Carrot. But I had a purpose, man. And I'm like, dude, game on. Let's just keep working this thing.
That's incredible. So that entire story, that entire process is really a highlight of what Carrot stands for today, right? Because you were in a position where you were working, you were doing well, but you were not fulfilled, right? You weren't living in a place of fulfillment. So you analyzed your situation, made the leap, and you started seeking, right? Instead of just living life to be, you fell in love with the process of becoming, right? Becoming the person that you were created to be. And so a lot of those tools that Trevor mentioned, like the energy audit, right? Like his vision plan that he was talking about. Every single year, Trevor hosts an annual meeting at the end of the year, right? And what do you call it? The annual planning workshop.
Dude, I think we've called it the epic planning call or something like that, because they're crazy long calls, man. They're like 2 or 3 hour calls, but they're fun.
But literally, he's taking these tools that he's created, right, and used along his journey that have truly brought him to life, right? Brought his dreams, his goals, ambitions back to life. And that entire process has built this, like you said, 8-figure company today that we know as Carrot, which Carrot, by the way, is the top ranking mass investor site probably in the network, right? There's a reason that you see a lot of Carrot sites at the top of search engine optimization. It's because they're built really well. They're built to perform. And it's instead of building it just to look sexy, like he was saying, give you all these design options, Trevor's thinking functionality, right? How can I not make websites look better, right? And have that quick sell because people like how they look. But how can we look at this plan and build it for longevity, right? What's the life cycle of this organization going to look like? And how can we add the most value into the network? And that's what he built.
Dude, you 100%, man. And it's such an interesting journey because, number one, even today, people might be going, oh, shoot, I want Trevor to be my example or whatever. Guys, even today, that entrepreneur roller coaster doesn't stop, right? No. It doesn't stop. Your problems just change. Your opportunities change. Sometimes the problems and opportunities are bigger. And this is where we all get a chance to ask ourselves these questions. Like, anytime we're in a business and we're hitting really, really hard stuff, we get to ask the question. Number one, is this something that was done to me or done for me? I think a lot of times we look at it and go, oh my gosh, look what's happening to me. These deals fell through, or this person left the company, or oh my gosh, the competitor did this, or this thing broke, or whatever. And whenever I get into those spots, I have to think about it and go, okay, number one, let me go back to my vision. Who's the person I want to become? And how would the person I want to become deal with this situation? And also, what are the disciplines and habits that the person I want to become would have that I currently don't have right now that would help me deal with these harder and bigger problems and challenges and opportunities now. And so that's something I'm always looking at, Ben, is every single quarter looking at my kind of habit ceilings and asking if I find myself in a spot where I feel like momentum's kind of waning. And I'll be fully candid with people right now, dude. I went through a period, December, January, February, March. We're in April right now, December, January, February, March, where I worked out every single day for all those months. I flipped on 75 hard in January 1st and twice a days and did the gallon of water and dude, on fire, like flat out on fire for
feeling like a
days.
machine, right?
Oh, dude, energy everywhere. And I'm on day like 73 and someone asked me, hey, what happens after 75 hard? And I'm going, dude, they said, what happens after day 75? I said, day 76. Like that was the mindset that I was in. I'm going to keep doing it. Day 76 is what's after. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go back and take a break now. I so enjoyed the way that I was showing up in life because I'd adopted these new disciplines, these new habits. And then we went on vacation on day 77. And so we went to Hawaii and I still had full intentions on doing it. And day one, I worked out twice, got on my water and ate good. Day two, got like one good workout in, half-assed the second one, had a beer, at dinner. Day three, didn't get a workout in. It's like, that was weird. It just felt weird. Energy wasn't there. And by the end of the vacation, man, it took 75 days to change my world energy wise, where I'm like never going back. Right. It took 4 days to get out of those disciplines, 4 days. And so what I want you guys to look at is the disciplines and habits in our lives are so darn important because they're what dictate our energy. They're what dictate our momentum. And so as of yesterday, I'm like, man, I feel like my momentum isn't going up like this, like it was for those past 90 days. It feels like it's kind of like this. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that we need to recognize as I've become more successful and as I've got a little bit more reps underneath me over the years. It's not a matter of if you're going to have momentum wane, it's when. And the key is recognizing sooner now than later when you're starting to go into a negative momentum state or a stagnant state. Before, I wouldn't catch it for months, right? I'd be like 3-4 months in, like, oh, geez, what just happened this last 4 months? Geez, now I catch it in days because I have these barometers, kind of like a stock trader would. A stock trader has indicators, right? Where they go, if this stock does this thing, then this process happens. Trade it, buy, sell, whatever it is. And I started creating indicators in my life where I'm going, if I start to show up in life like this too many days in a row, and for me, it's sleeping in and hitting the snooze button for a couple of days in a row. It's if I get an afternoon energy crash for a couple of days in a row. It's if I don't feel clear on vision for several days in a row. And I get to the end of the week, I'm like, damn, I just feel like I got a lot of work done, but I have no clue what I accomplished. Mm-hmm. If that happens to me for more than 3 or 4 days in a row, bam, indicator goes off. Okay, now I have a process. I go, okay, indicator off, something's wrong. And now I pull back and have a physical process I go through to get back on. And it's number one, go through what you talked about before of kind of the process and how beliefs turn into choices and choices into habits and habits into disciplines. The part that's missing there is your disciplines are your reputation. Your disciplines are who you are. And so as I start to look at those disciplines and I compare myself against the vision of who I want to become, then I ask myself, where's the gap now? Oh, shoot, I need to get this discipline back. I need to get this discipline back. And so then I start to create a challenge now. And my challenge now is I signed up for a sprint triathlon in June. I don't know how to swim, dude. I don't know how to swim.
What?
So, and I never have known how to swim. Like literally couldn't tread water for 20 seconds.
Wow.
Up until 3 weeks ago. I'd never swam the length of a swimming pool up until 3 weeks ago. Never.
That's crazy.
And so I felt the indicator hit. And I'm like, okay, I've got to shock my system back into something that gets me back into those disciplines. And one of the best ways to do it is through a challenge. And a challenge for me is this. Number one, it's specific. Like what is it specifically? Sprint triathlon. It's X amount of miles, whatever it is, right? 3 events, running, swimming, biking. Number two, it's got to be time-based, i.e. it's on this date. So I literally signed up for it that day. I'm like, all right, done deal, paid the money. My wife's in it. I'm in it. And then number 3, you got to have accountability. Okay. So it's specific time-based and accountability. And so that next day, talked to my assistant. Hey, I don't know how to swim. Let's get a coach. Let's get some times lined up. And so I've been swimming twice a week. I swam 3 lengths of the pool a couple weeks ago. So I treaded water for 3 minutes. And dude, I'm getting back into that momentum. So that's the biggest thing. And I'll kind of leave it with that is in your work, y'all, I want you guys to be doing something that you enjoy. Okay. Number one, you should enjoy your work on the daily basis, things that give you energy. You're not going to enjoy it every day. You're not going to enjoy everything you do, but you should in general enjoy your work. Number two, you should be good at the work that you do. Okay. You should do it well. And number three, behind that, you should enjoy it. You should do it well. And you should have purpose behind why you're doing it. You should be building momentum towards something, not just kind of hamster wheel doing things. And then once you're doing work that you enjoy, kind of have that mental barometer. When you start to feel something go down, and you'll feel it. Okay, the next time you feel yourself going down into negative momentum, ask yourself, what were the indicators that happened before that happened? Oh shoot, I started to get lack of energy in the afternoons, or I stopped reading my book daily, or this or that. And then start to kind of collect those, and then find a process. For me, it's reading my vision story again, and it's creating a challenge every time. Read my vision story. Where am I not doing it? And then create a challenge. And that gets me back into it. And so if you guys adopt a process like that, your lows are going to be shorter and quicker, and then you're going to get back to momentum quicker too.
That's good. You got to push yourself outside of comfort, right? Yep. Great things happen at the edge of that comfort zone. But if you're constantly just seeking that comfort, you're never going to grow and expand.
Exactly. And people are probably once again saying, because this is what I would have thought is, well, shoot, Trevor, you've got it made, right? You've got a big business. You've got an amazing family. Net worth is more than I ever thought it would be by a factor of probably multiple numbers. But I don't care. Like, that's the thing. I want to do work I enjoy. I want to do work that's adding value to the world. I want to do it well. And I want to make sure that I'm having momentum in my life. And as long as I keep enjoying my work, doing it well, and having momentum in this business, I'm going to keep doing it forever. The second that I can't find that it's work that I enjoy, that I'm doing well, and it's not giving me momentum, that's when you start to look back and go, cool, I need a change. But I don't see that in the near future anytime soon. Yeah,
I love it, man. Incredible value today, as always. I love diving in, man. I feel like every time that we get together and talk, we uncover some stones, man. Which it's fun, man. I enjoy it.
Dude, me too, man. One last piece of advice I'll give is this: I started doing this year when I was getting in massive momentum. And I wish I would have done this earlier. Is when things are going really, really well, or something works really well for you in your life, document it. Like, document that mindset. And so in my Apple Notes, I created this thing called Life Truths. And as I'm reading a book and I pick a nugget out, I'm like, oh, that's so good. Like, I'll write it down. Or if I'm living something, I'm like, oh man, that thing right there, I need to bottle that up. I put it all in this note called Life Truths. I've got dozens of them now. And they're on topics like criticism and consumption and freedom and self-doubt and fear and success and happiness, order and tidiness, ego and self. How do you weigh opportunity? Getting people to open up, being busy is bad, strategy, saying yes too much, like all these different things. And what I encourage you guys to do is document those, because in a year and 2 years and 5 years and 10 years, you're going to look back and go, damn, I've got my life operating system right here. That I can just keep on dipping back into those life truths. Anytime I feel some fear, bam, I'm going back to that fear quote, and I'm going to read it. Anytime I feel momentum's not there, I'm going to go back to the momentum quote and read it and get back to my process.
And those principles will compound, right? You're stacking these habits, stacking these ideas and these truths that you take ownership. They're your own, right? And just like compound interest, they build you into a force to be reckoned with, right? That's how winning is done. Love it, man. As always, it's a pleasure, Trevor. Wish I could make it out to Carrot Camp this year. Looks like it's not going to happen.
We need to get you out, man.
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'm going to put it on the calendar for 2022.
Cool. Let's do it.
Yeah. Wife is calling. That probably means the little baby Emerson at home is wanting to see her daddy. But
you better get, man. Well, Ben, I appreciate the time, buddy. Appreciate what you're doing and adding the energy to the world, man. You're doing great stuff.
Thank you, my brother. We'll see you guys on the other side.